Hi, I'm Glen Hiemstra from Futurist.com. I'm talking with Amy Frazier, the Director of Programs and Marketing at Futurist.com. And Amy is initiating 3 programs on creativity and the future this month. The programs are called Biology and Technology, Community and Collaboration in a Creative Economy, and Sustainability and Renewal. But they're all about creativity in the 21st century. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about your background that you bring to working on creativity.
Sure. I started off in the theater. I spent a couple of decades as a professional actor and helped to found some theater companies. And then I stepped away from that recently in order to write a book. And it was in doing that, as these things often happen, when you stop doing something you've been doing for a long time, you're able to look at it in a different way. And that's what happened with me. I stopped doing theater regularly. And when I did, I realized that I had benefited from it in ways that had not been apparent to me when I was being an active actor. And the main thing that occurred to me with some reflection was that I had stopped learning how to be present. I'd stopped learning how to be present to myself, to my environment, to the people that I was with. And it was appalling realization. And I thought, how many other people experience this in their lives? And certainly theater isn't the only way to come to that sort of sense of being aware of yourself in the world, but it's one of the ways of doing it because you're asked to tune into yourself and to tune into what's going on. So it occurred to me that the things that I had learned from being a professional actor would be things that were very valuable for people whether they were in the theater or not. And that's kind of how I got started on this route. And then I branched out a little bit so it was no longer specifically focused on theater as a platform for personal development, but it was more about creativity in general and the expressive ways that creativity can help us. And certainly now, how is creativity being impacted by the influences of the early part of the 21st century and what we can do to respond to that. So.
Now, and you've been with Futures.com for a little bit over a year.
That's right.
And we've talked a lot about creativity and innovation.
Yep.
And the necessity of, for example, innovating ourselves out of this economic crisis.
Out of a mess, yeah.
And you've done some programs related to creativity with groups. What are the kinds of things that you're doing? I know it's very personally based.
Right.
So
right.
tell us give us a couple of examples of things that you've done or are doing when you work creativity in groups.
There is one program that I recently initiated with a colleague that's called PCI Adventure, and it stands for Passion, Creativity, and Innovation. And it's an experience where people are invited to reorient themselves around what creativity means to them. And I think that's key because you do hear people saying a lot, it's going to be our creativity that will get us out of this mess. But many of us don't quite know what our creativity is to us, and so we don't know where to begin. And this is a program that allows people experientially to, it's a sort of smorgasbord. How many different avenues into creativity are there? Dozens and dozens and dozens. And what does creativity look like different on different people? Not everyone is going to be showing the same signs when they're creatively engaged, and that's often a big aha for people because they think that creativity has to look a certain way when really it's about tuning in. And there's some specific things that you can learn to appreciate the creative cycle and how you actually need downtime in order to be able to generate a new idea. And I think particularly during times of stress and anxiety, which we're definitely living through right now, it can be really difficult for people to give themselves the permission to step back and relax. And it's through that, a sort of incubating period and letting go of the problem that the creative solution often occurs.
And you've named one of your Futurist.com programs Biology and Technology, which is a very intriguing title to me.
Yeah.
And it has to do, I think, with the fact that we're sort of in this highly technological age, kind of overwhelmed with technology. But tell me a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so I think
your concept there.
Yeah, my concept around that is technology, and specifically sort of computing technology, and how that is sort of a double-edged sword. It gives us access to creativity in new ways, right? So many people loading up their videos to YouTube, all kinds of creative access in ways that we haven't had before. That part of it is marvelous, but I think what we can often tend to forget is that it's our biology that's sustaining us in all of these creative actions, whether the creativity is being manifest through technology or not. It's all starting with us. You know, it's starting with our ability to come up with a new idea and our brain and how our brain and our body are working together. So this program is really designed to sort of goose up the volume, if you will, on the biological component to make sure that we remember that it's in taking a deep breath that our brain wakes up. It's in moving our body that we're able to, refresh our physical state, and that very often leads to a moment of creativity.
So I'm thinking as a potential customer, I'd like to be more creative, but
Right.
I'm not a creative person.
Oh, yes.
Or I would like my organization to be more creative, but we're not very creative people. How do you help me or help us?
Okay, a big part of that, first of all, is recognizing, as I said before, that creativity looks different in different people. Some people are really oriented toward initiating ideas, some people are oriented toward articulating them, and some people are oriented toward putting the finishing touch. That's one way of looking at it. So when people know that, they can very often say, maybe I have been creative all this time, I just didn't know. And then the other piece is that I feel that specifically in organizational settings, there's this sense of being under the gun and that need, as I mentioned before, to just keep working, keep working. So the response in an organizational culture is, step away, put down the keyboard and step away from the computer. It's like take a moment to realize that it's in making the connection with a colleague. It's in taking 5 minutes to walk around the block, or even walk around a range of cubicles, or take the stairs, or something that it allows you to remember you're here in this time and place, and that reorients you. And very often, there's countless stories of people having their eureka moments when they have turned away from the problem and they have found themselves engaged in a moment of relaxation. So that's a big message, is how do you breed that into the culture of an organization that's used to working very hard, and in periods of stress, people feel encouraged to work even harder, and there's a way in which that's counterproductive.
And how do we learn this from you? Is in a presentation, in a workshop, what's the variety of means by which we might learn some of these things?
That's a really good question. There's, the information is very interesting to learn, especially if it's the first time you've heard it. There's also a piece in experiencing it. The learning just goes deeper. So it can happen in two ways. It can happen through a sort of traditional keynote presentation where information is conveyed. And then also, if there's time to do experiential activities, that really grounds it, because people feel different after they've experienced these things. So it's a combination of information and then experience. And then there's a bit of homework, frankly, because a lot of these things that we're talking about are practices that develop over time, and they're very simple practices. So you can continue to build on that after the workshop is done, which is great.
Well, very good. I'm Glen Hiemstra. I've been talking with Amy Frazier, Director of Programs and Marketing at Futurist.com. And she's been explaining these programs that she's developed now on creativity, both for you as an individual and for your organization. If you'd like to find out more, contact us at Futurist.com, ask for Amy, and she can give you the details. Thank you very much.